今日は、we will talk about film festival.
Is this racist?
Well, the first part was not racist, and then I didn't know how to say film festival in Japanese. So,
I learned that. Tokyo 国際映画祭。
はい、行きましょう。僕は Wilson Lai です。
Benjamin Yap です。
Eli Sands des.
Deep cut no. Fuck.
今、ディープカットを聞いてます。
Yeah.
Close enough, I don't know.
On Deep Cut, we compare a director's most popular film with a personal favorite chosen by one of us.
We also discuss a director's life in Korea to bring context that helps us view their movies as they may want us to.
If you're enjoying the show, please rate and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts to help others discover the show. Better still, you can leave a review on Apple Podcasts or comment on our episodes directly on Spotify. You can also find us at deepcutpod.com to find our links to our socials, Discord, and our very exclusive Patreon.
You know where else you can find us? Japan.
Let's go. We're international, folks.
Yes. I'm still in Japan. I'm so tired.
Is this our most tired episode yet? Like all three of us are.
Oh, I guess we're all exhausted.
We're crashing.
It's okay. We need the energy. This is going to be like 2 hours of me ripping through 17 movies.
2 hours?
2 hours?
Hopefully not.
Both Eli and I said 2 hours with fear in our eyes.
Welcome to our Festival Dispatch episode of the 38th Tokyo International Film Festival. Hakushu shite kudasai, which means please clap.
Bro, I'm like fluent, man.
It's
so
literally
good.
Chinese. It's literally Chinese on our notes. Anyway, as you may already know, this is our dispatch episode for the 38th TIFF. And the team at the festival very kindly extended us a press pass for the very first time. So I got to go there and watch a whole bunch of movies and pretend like I knew what I was doing as the press, take some photos, interview some people, watch a lot of movies. On top of the movies, I was able to get 2 interviews with the directors, which I'll kind of talk about a little bit as I cover the films in this dispatch episode, and also attended a few exclusive press events, which are also really fun.
And if you are already in the know, you probably will have heard and seen Ben talk about the movies that he's seen at the festival if you follow us on Instagram and TikTok.
I haven't posted any of them on TikTok.
Oh,
but
just
I will.
Instagram. Okay.
Oh.
Ben's brief reviews of, correct me if I'm wrong, everything that we're going to be talking about right now are on the Instagram, and they are a feast for the eyes and the ears. There's some like cutting happening. There's some different camera setups. We are not just your regular speak to camera film reviewer. We're built different. Or Ben's built
got
different.
a great haircut.
I'm also not cutting in any clips from the film. It's just my face, usually.
Just face from different angles, though. So we're doing something.
Yeah, because we didn't have footage from the movie, so Ben had to reenact every clip he wanted to cut to.
So right.
Should we ask how was the experience of the festival? Like, you've attended SGIF for a few years, you've been to New York Film Festival, but I think this might be like the first time you're traveling somewhere dedicated to like covering the festival for the podcast.
I think being press was kind of an interesting experience and like was really fun actually. So on top of like being able to attend, what TIFF did was that they had a whole section of press screenings that were just for the press, which meant that I could almost definitely get into those screenings. So essentially they ran two schedules, one schedule for public screenings and then another schedule for these press screenings, which meant I was like juggling both because not all the films I saw had press screenings, especially the restoration. So I had to buy tickets for those. So like figuring out the schedule was pretty difficult, but I was averaging maybe like 2-ish films a day, or less than 2 films a day actually. And that was nice. And like, it was interesting how I was able to attend some of the Q&As without actually watching the film. So then they would kind of bring me to the back. And then as the film ends, because every single film starts exactly on time and ends exactly on time.
Hell yeah.
I get in right before the Q&A begins. They put me in the front row. Then I can like take photos and record notes and record the Q&A so that I can reference something. That was kind of an interesting and fun experience because it's not like being just a normal audience member, I guess. That was like kind of fun. And I was able to meet some other people that were also like international film critics. That was really surreal because I've been reading bylines from some of these writers for like other kinds of film reviews and film coverage. And it was kind of like surreal to like, oh, actually this person exists in front of me right now. And I'm talking to them. And this was not on my bingo card that I would like meet people that I recognize their names from like reading their reviews and like film coverage. So that was really nice. And there was a lot of other Singaporeans in the mix, or like Singaporean-based people like Mark Peregrino, who's Mick Pilgrim on
Yeah,
IG.
shout out.
Ran to him. He also covered the festival a bit on his account. And other writers, like my friend Sasha, who writes for Margin Mag, was also there.
Shout out
really
to
nice.
Margin Mag.
Yeah. And also I just like to thank the team because I felt like even though that was my first time, I felt pretty well taken care of, especially during the interview parts where they had to like help me figure out what's going on. And also for my Japanese interview, they provided an interpreter, which is really, really nice. So I didn't bring anyone in. And in fact, every single film that they showed, almost all of them had English subtitles. And then for the Q&As, they will actually provide a translator for the audience. And depending on the way it works, like if it's like a big audience of like a lot of English speakers, then they will do a consecutive translation, right? So like I'll speak Japanese and then somebody will translate and somebody will ask in English and then it'll translate back. So that's a more typical translation strategy. But for the films in which maybe the audience had fewer numbers of English speakers, they would just bring you to the front, have you sit next to the translator who would just simultaneously translate as they were going on.
That's cool.
Which is really smart because it meant that you didn't have to waste time with the translation. So you actually get more Q&A time because you were not wasting half of it on translation. So that was kind of an interesting thing that I saw. So there were like 2 Q&As I saw where like they did that. So it was like a kind of a different experience. Although I didn't realize this was what's going on. So there were a few Q&As in which I was just sitting through a Japanese Q&A, which I did not understand. Because I didn't understand that I could go towards the translator. But anyway, lessons for next time. Invite us again if you enjoyed this episode, festival team. I'm going to jump into this so that we're not spending too much time doing this episode. I have categorized the 17 films I saw into 4 sections. I'm going to tell you the sections, and this is not the order that I watched them. Although if you see the reels I've been posting, that's actually in order of me watching the film. So that would be you tracking me as I'm like going through the films I'm watching. So the first section is the restorations I saw. The second section is Japanese filmmakers that I don't know very well or are less well known. Third section is also Japanese filmmakers, but a little more well known. And then the last section are the international films. So we'll begin with the restorations.
I really like the video that you made for the first film that you're going to be talking about because you found a location that was very apt for this film. Why don't you introduce it and explain?
Yeah, so the first one was a restoration of a pair of films I saw from Japanese filmmaker Shinoda Masahiro. He is part of the Japanese New Wave. So the first film I saw for the festival actually was Demon Pond. This came out in 1979. And it's a film that's based on a kabuki play. And actually very difficult to summarize, but it's kind of a folklore-based kabuki play. And the film translates that to a filmic medium. And the film is about a traveler traveling to a town which is dealing with a huge drought. And so he kind of like, almost like a Western, is trying to figure out what's going on. And then while he's in a town looking for water, he realizes there's a huge lake in the town and no one's drinking from the lake. And then they're like, oh, we don't drink from lake because there's a huge curse on it. There's a dragon living under the lake. And we just cannot drink this water for whatever reason. And then as he's wandering around, he finds a hut or like a little house in a nice little garden. And then he starts speaking to a woman that he thinks is an old woman. And he's telling her that he's thirsty and that he's looking for water. And then she gives him water, but she tells him that the water is from that lake that everyone's so superstitious about. And then he's a bit like, huh, okay. Then he finds out, oh, it's a beautiful woman. And this woman is actually played by an Onagata actor. And an Onagata actor is actually, this actor is from, he's like one of the foremost Onagata actors in Kabuki at the time. And Onagata means a man playing female parts. Right? So he meets this woman and after that starts talking to her and then finds out that her husband is his friend from like 3 years ago that went missing. And then the friend was avoiding him this whole time. Then for some reason, they end up talking and then meeting. And he's like, oh, you're here. What are you doing here? And is this your wife? It's like, yeah, this is my wife. And then this leads on to the plot of the film, which is that there is a bell that this man is now ringing, the husband of this woman. Okay?
I really like that it was like a lot of story and then like this leads up to the plot of the film.
Yeah.
There's a bell.
The real plot of the film is that this man, in a way, accidentally took over the role of ringing the bell. And he has to ring the bell 3 times a day to keep the dragon from coming out of the pond.
Wilson and I are making the most confused faces of each other right now.
So this is the first act of the film. This
God.
So this is what you learn from the first act. The film is incredible. And I gotta tell you, it's so crazy because it's so incredible because Act 2 is another whole thing. Act 2, the dragon appears, played by the same actor that plays that young woman. Because they all think she's a witch.
You're saying so many words, but nothing's really
so many nouns
making sense.
So the second act is like you actually enter, in a way, the cosmic or fantastical reality of the demon pond. And so the demon queen or whatever appears with all her lackeys who are like crabs and fish and shit. Like mud.
What?
Yeah, like it's like nuts. It's like you know Power Rangers and like how they like have those humanoid creatures that are like
This
the
is the
enemies.
first movie we're talking about.
Like this is the second act of Demon Pond is like you suddenly learn about this whole fantastical place.
I'm
They're like
crying.
talking about
It's
how
so overwhelming.
the humans are so crazy and stupid. And they're like, yeah, we need to like kill the humans, blah blah blah. Yeah, that's Act 2. Yeah, so that's Demon
Act
Pond.
2?
Yeah, that's Act 2. This is Act 3.
How many acts are there?
Anyway, I'm not going to talk about the acts. So the plot of the film really is about the...
Then you haven't told us the plot of the film yet?
The plot of the film is the conflict between the guy that rings the bell and the people in the town who are like, we need to stop ringing the bell because we need water to come into the town. We need rain. And then like the guy's like, if I don't ring the bell, well, whole village is going to flood because the dragon is going to come. So that's the true conflict of the film. Honestly, this is such a like batshit insane plot. Like you kind of just watch it and like can vibe and like look at how crazy it looks.
I mean, it
And
sounds awesome.
It is awesome.
It does
Like,
sound
it's-
incredible.
It is. Honestly, I'm already beginning really strong because this is probably my favorite thing that I saw at the festival. And I was like, what is going on?
Demon Pond. Put it in
Demon
your watch
Pond.
list.
You gotta watch this. I think it's on Criterion Channel if you have a subscription. This shit goes so hard. I'm so glad it was my first Shinoda film that I saw. Looks absolutely beautiful. There are like some scenes where it's like, oh, you know, like water, flood, fog, fire, like just like all that natural, chaotic stuff in the frame. And it really kind of reminds me of a Western, which kind of makes sense if I think about Japanese New Wave, which I think draws a lot from like Hollywood genres and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. Kurosawa was famously very Western influenced as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Demon Pond. Second Shinoda Masahiro film I saw was Pale Flower. I think Pale Flower is one of his more well-known films. It is a sort of Yakuza film. Yakuza member comes out of prison after killing somebody and then goes gambling. And then he meets a young thrill-seeking woman at the gambling den and then like starts becoming intrigued by her, but then she's a bit scary. She's sort of a femme fatale type because she's a little crazy, like wants to bet big and like wants a thrill. And then he is not quite in love with her, but like keeps hanging out with her. And then most of the film is really about him trying to like figure out who she is and what her deal is. But this is really truly a vibes film about being sad, lonely Yakuza. To me, this is like Kitano, like if you know Kitano, like the kind of like sad Yakuza. I actually maybe want to find love, or like maybe I'm in love with the woman, but then like everything sucks because I'm Yakuza and like there's no hope. That kind of bleakness. And people really love the gambling scenes in this, in which like you do not know what's going on. They do gambling with those like flower cards, Hanafuda cards, which, fun fact, is the first thing that Nintendo published, which is these playing cards for gambling. Yeah.
Wow.
So if you want to know some history about Nintendo, they used to sell playing cards.
When I was in Kyoto last year, we stayed at a hotel that was 1 block away from the old Nintendo headquarters, and you can like see it on the side of the building. It was really cool.
That's awesome.
The film looks really good. It's like kind of a film noir. I think it's got kind of a detached, almost European art house vibe, which I like maybe personally don't vibe as much with compared to like the epic folklore of Demon Pawn, which is like insane. And this one's more about like cool, detached Yakuza ennui type of thing. But comparing with Kitano, like I think Kitano has more of like that sense of humor that I really like. Whereas this is really like, I'm sad and I'm cool and like, I'll take the fall and like, I'm going to go gambling and I have no emotions because I'm the Yakuza.
Let me guess. He goes back to jail in the end.
Yeah. Spoilers. And I think definitely the appeal of this is like, if you want to kind of like sink into that Yakuza cool and like feel that same thing, that film can maybe give you that experience of like feeling that way without actually like getting a huge back tattoo. But yeah. So I think that's the experience of this film.
I'm looking on Letterboxd right now, and Shinoda had also directed an adaptation of Silence that Scorsese made in his own version of later on. Very cool. Could be someone we could get into, right?
These two films made me really interested in him because like he has really well-reviewed films, and like I just hadn't seen anything from him. And like they are really cool, very diverse. These two films I just talked about, totally different kinds of films. One black and white, one like full color, and across quite a long time frame as well. So honestly, he might be my next project of like looking into like older cinema. Kind of like if you think about it, splitting the difference between like a Suzuki, a Kitano, and like I don't know what else. You know what I mean? Like like this whole new wave. Like I feel like I haven't really sunk my teeth into that much.
Mm-hmm.
That's Shinoda's films. Next one I want to talk about is Floating Clouds, another restoration directed by Naruse Mikio. This one Wilson has seen.
I've not. I'm a Naruse head, but I'm not that far Naruse pilled yet.
Oh, interesting.
I was doing a very methodical thing that I sort of gave up on, where I was like sort of sandwich watching, like watching the latest film in the filmography and then going back to the earliest film and then sort of like getting to the middle, and Floating Clouds was in the middle somewhere. So I haven't touched it yet, but I will get to it. I'm 18 films in out of fucking like 81 films. Yeah. So
whoa,
big filmography.
Yeah. Floating Clouds is about a woman who goes to Vietnam and then begins a love affair of a man who's married. And then she returns to, I believe, Tokyo, and then wants to get back together with him. But of course, he's married and that shit's not flying. So it becomes a huge situationship because she's just like madly in love with him. And he kind of entertains her, but then like never will commit to like leaving his family to be with her. I think depending on the kind of person you are, this movie will hit you very differently because the women on my left and my right were crying at the end of this. One was younger and one was older. And I was not feeling as much because the whole time I'm watching the movie, I was just thinking, holy shit, you need to drop this man and go find somebody else. But I can't remember who I was talking to, but there's this feeling of that this is tied up a little bit with the post-war trauma as well, because their love affair in Vietnam is during the war. And they are both people that work in forestry, so they weren't really engaged directly with like war and death. So it was like this idyllic time. So then I think the post-war depression and like economically meaning and like makes them think about that time as an idyllic like love affair. And I think that's why she keeps coming back to him. Even though, as much as we can tell, aside from that flashback, they seem pretty friggin' miserable with each other. Like, there is almost no love felt between them, which is why I was like, damn, like, I just need to see this love so that I can buy into it and see why you're so obsessed. But there isn't really that manifestation of it, which makes it a bit difficult to like buy into it, for me anyway. But I think if you're a person that buys into love as sacrifice, I can see how this feels like romantic and painful and tragic. And slight spoiler, but movie does not end well.
What Naruse film ends well? I'll pose the question to everybody. Someone tell me if there's a Naruse film that ends well.
But the cast in this is great. The leading actress, Takamine Hideko, who is, in everything that Naruse makes, or many of those things, great. And the man that is like the object of affection is played by Mori Masayuki. And I don't know, I feel like I don't buy into his attractiveness because he plays this man that also himself has no economic prospects and keeps looking for a job. And it's like, oh my God, like, what do you see in him? I don't get it. But there's a lot of other trauma that she's dealing with as well. So like, you can kind of feel like, oh, maybe it's because she has so few options that her best option isn't even that great. And that's Floating Clouds. My screening also had a little Q&A, or rather like stage appearance from the actress named Okada Mariko, who, if you don't recognize the name, which I didn't really, but she plays a small character in this. And she has been in Tampopo, and Autumn Afternoon,
Cool.
Late Autumn, Flowing, a bunch of other films. And I guess she was quite young at the time of Floating Clouds. So I think at this point, she's probably like in her 90s. So it's quite incredible for her to like appear. I think maybe possibly one of the only living cast members from this film, if not the only.
That's incredible. Did she say anything about working with Naruse?
She kept saying she couldn't remember stuff.
Okay.
Which I was like, oh, poor lady. I can't believe they pull you out here.
Yeah, putting you on stage and be like, remember this thing that happened like 70 to 80 years ago?
But I will tell you, near the end, they're like, what are you doing to be so healthy nowadays? She's like, oh, I do aerobics, I go swimming, blah, blah, blah. Which was really cute. I understood that part. And unfortunately, the last question was like, oh, do you have any final message for the audience? And she just didn't understand the question.
Oh.
She just didn't understand it. She just, for some reason, the guy asking the question asked this like 3 times. She did not understand it, like what he was asking.
Oh.
So she just ended with talking about like, oh, you guys should all go do exercise and like be healthy. Which I guess is a nice sentiment.
That's a great, that's really great.
Asking a woman in her 90s for a final message is like, I mean, rude.
This is me translating whatever he's saying. Maybe it's more polite in Japanese, but yeah. It's like, would you have any last things to say to people at the end of this thing?
Any last words, period.
At the end of this Q&A, not the end of your life.
Yeah. I don't know how else to
kind of
phrase
sounds
that.
like end of life.
Jesus. Anyway, let's move on.
Let's move on to a movie that has a lot of ends of lives.
Next movie, Love Massacre, directed by Patrick Tom. So Wilson loves this movie, and I just saw the restoration that M+/Chanel was doing. And I think the restoration is not bad, considering I think probably the condition of whatever print or negative they were working off of. But it definitely still can see some damage from that print or negative that cannot be fully eliminated from this restoration, which is kind of sad because it means that the prints or whatever were not kept in good condition. And that's probably why it took so long for them to do a restoration for this, because there just wasn't a good copy of this. Like even the copy that people have been seeing has pretty poor rip from like some VHS or something, right? That the resolution is so bad. Here, of course, the resolution, the colors are better, but you do still see that damage from that restoration. Anyway, Love Massacre, I do not know how to describe this movie. It is actually also insane, but I think the title gives it away. It is about... what is it about? It's about a bunch of couples in love, and then one of them is spurned, and then he basically goes on a homicidal rampage.
That's it.
Huh. The first half is like really slow. And I was like, what is this? When does the massacre happen? And then the second half is this insane sequence of scenes in which this man starts murdering all the women living in this complex in, I think, France.
No, they're in America.
Oh, they're in America. Yeah. So they're like in a foreign country. All the people in this complex are women, and he's killing all the women because he's looking for his lover who lives in this complex, and she's nowhere to be found. That sequence is cross-cut with that lady walking around talking about that man with that man's sister's boyfriend. Very placidly and very like low energy. They're just walking around town talking about how they're a little afraid of him right now. And then it parallel cuts with him murdering people. And I'm like,
Yep.
what? Like, it's like insane. Like, it's basically, okay, let me take Antonioni detached film about people just talking about their feelings and being depressed with B-grade exploitation slasher thriller. And let me intercut those two kinds of movies together. Absolutely nuts. And I could not really swallow this as a viewer properly. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I think it's actually better to watch this as if it's a bit of a crazy movie rather than like, oh, this presented as like this like classic of cinema. I think it should actually be presented more as like a cult thing or like as almost a trashy film, you know what I mean? And I think that is the better entryway into this film rather than thinking of it as some sort of masterpiece from the get-go. Because I think that's maybe the problem with that. It's like, you got to approach this in the right way, which is like, this is a little crazy. This is a loopy film.
Yeah. I think Patrick Tam, it's interesting because he's sort of like coming up in the Hong Kong New Wave with people like An Hui and Wong Kar-wai and a lot of them making movies that are inspired by European filmmakers. But I think Tam was the one that was really like the black sheep of that bunch, which is crazy to say because I think Wong makes really unique individual type cinema, but I feel like Wong's films are so much more palatable to people. But I love how ballsy Tam is, and he's just like, okay, this is like what I'm gonna fucking do. I'm gonna intercut these slow scenes with this killing that's happening, and that's just gonna be my reflection of like, I don't know what it is exactly. Like maybe he's like talking about Chinese immigrants to the West and like sort of the destined to lead a life that is not great or like is doomed because of their ties to their home country. Like, I don't know what exact, or he just wants to like show this crazy guy like going on this homicide. But it is scattered around his filmography. Like Nomad's also very weird, I would say. And I would say maybe My Heart is that Eternal Rose that is released on home video by our friends at Connie Releasing is probably the most, I would say, viewer-friendly option from Patrick Tam's filmography.
I mean, if you're looking for something weird, this is something weird.
Yeah. How would you say you would compare it to the other M+ restoration that we talked about, like The Arch? As viewers that are sort of coming to these movies as sort of like a collection of films that have been chosen to be restored.
I think that at least just from having two films to look at, like this is a pretty diverse pair already in terms of like choosing to restore Chinese cinema. And I think The Arch actually is experimental as well in a lot of ways, the same way that Love Massacre is very experimental. So I guess these restorations, just using these two samples, are giving you a different idea of Chinese cinema, which is kind of nice. Like in a way, it's like old Chinese cinema doesn't have to be boring. Kind of like, that's kind of like almost a thesis I'm getting.
Yeah.
And last restoration, I think it's a restoration, but it kind of came up under the Japanese classics, which is Iwai Shunji's April Story, which I believe came out in 1995, something like that.
1998.
So this film stars Masu Takaku, who is a singer/actress, and she is very famous actually. And at that point in time, she was about to debut as a singer, is what I learned from the Q&A from EY. And basically the project came up from them kind of discussing about making a music video for her, and then it somehow spun out and became this longer feature film that they shot in between her doing a TV show as well at the time. So she was booked and busy as this like, I guess, upcoming star. And she already came from a pretty renowned kabuki family, actually. And so I'm sure connected somehow, and that's how she broke out and like became this star in so many different mediums and art forms. And April's story is extremely simple. It's set in April, in the spring, about a woman who is going to college in Tokyo, but she comes from Hokkaido. And the mystery is, why are you here? That's the whole movie.
To go to college?
No. Yes, but also no. And that's the movie. It's extremely simple. This movie is 65 minutes of like almost like twee of her just being like, yo, I'm here, I'm shy, and I have something on my mind. It's a very sweet film, actually. Like, honestly, most of the scenes really don't go anywhere because the core question is just this one question. Why is she here? And what is she doing? And then he answers that question with a flashback, which is not that interesting, to be honest, from a stylistic standpoint, but works and is functional and ends in a very sweet way, which is very unlike at least the one other Iwai film I've seen, which is all about Lily Shushu, which is not sweet at all.
I will say I watched this movie in 2019 and I don't remember shit.
Oh.
So I don't know if that speaks to some sort of lasting power. Like I feel like I remember All About Lily Choo Choo more, even though I hate All About Lily Choo Choo. And I remember Love Letter a lot more, but I love Love Letter. I love Love Letter so much.
What's All About Lily Choo Choo?
All About Lily Shushu is about teenagers in high school and like how they kind of traumatize each other.
Yeah. Ooh. And there's a parasocial relationships with pop stars, which on paper is like my kind of shit, but it is.
This is a lot. It's a lot.
It's a hard film to swallow.
Yeah, it's a lot going on in this film. That's like pretty traumatic. Abel's story, really sweet and nice. 65 minutes. If you want to watch it, it's a good time, honestly. A lot of these scenes go nowhere, but they're really, honestly, well directed. And Matsu-san is like really nice to look at. And like, I don't know, like she's just sweet to look at. She's almost like a sort of a manic pixie dream girl, but she's the main character. And I always love kind of how Iwai's films look. I don't know what he does. Like the highlights always blown out in this weird, nostalgic way. I really like how that looks. Very dreamlike. But in a digital way, I felt almost. Like it looks very digital for some weird reason, but I know this is shot on film, but something about it is interesting. Yeah, this April story. That's all the restorations I saw. I was supposed to see Wholesale Xian's Some of My Grandpas, but I had to skip out on that, unfortunately, because I went to a different thing, which I'll talk about later.
Ooh. Yeah, booked and busy.
Yeah, I was like, let me go do something else, even though I had this ticket. But anyway, that's all the restorations. Let's move on quickly to the next section, which is films from Japanese filmmakers that are slightly lesser known because they are up-and-coming, younger filmmakers. This is a very random note, but a lot of the Japanese films I saw from both this section and the next section I'm going to talk about, like a lot of them like actually mentioned 311, which I don't know if you guys know this term. 311 references the Great East Japan earthquake, which also was then followed up with the tsunami that then caused the nuclear meltdown in Fukushima. So it was interesting noticing this in so many films, like whether as a passing comment or like with whole scenes dedicated to kind of just showing you a bit of it. And I found it quite interesting to notice across all the Japanese films I saw, because I guess if you think about it, 2011 is now like 14 years ago. And if you think about the younger people that lived through it, whether they were in it or whether they witnessed it from like the news, like they're now much older. And like I can see how this is seeping into the filmmaking, whether you're an older filmmaker or a younger filmmaker. And for the nation, it's like this huge traumatic event that everybody was tied to. So it obviously makes a lot of sense, but like I never really noticed this maybe from others Japanese cinema until now, seeing so many of them in succession that I can feel it. I mean, to give maybe better context to people from maybe the West, this is like essentially like a 9/11 style trauma where like it's almost like impossible to avoid, or like even like a COVID pandemic trauma that's in the history. So like it's almost impossible to not mention it. Or maybe sometimes you want to mention it because you want to maybe like pay tribute to a bit of what's going on over there, maybe because of your location of shooting and stuff like that.
But also the environmental consequences of the meltdown at Fukushima are still being felt.
Yeah, they are. Like you, our good friend and person you're staying with right now, Mikio. Yeah.
Sidebar, a friend of the pod, Mikio, whose room I'm currently in, brought me to Fukushima over the weekend.
Whoa.
And that was a really interesting experience for me, seeing these things that I was noticing in the films, and like learning about the impact of that meltdown to the area, to the people, and to the land. So like that was a pretty powerful experience that was not related to the film festival, but like became connected to it because of this recurring motif that I started seeing in the Japanese films, or rather the recent Japanese films that people are making. How artists are trying to reconcile their feelings about this and also like having that seep into their work in big and small ways. So I don't know. I think that's just kind of interesting, and maybe also a sign that there's a healthy artistic output coming from the country, hopefully. I guess you can say that, where people are all trying to contend with this in different ways, whether it's through art or like through museums or through demonstrations and all that. So I think there's a lot there that's really interesting. And if you're someone that's interested in this, I think you can go to Fukushima. Like there's places to go to see, and like museums that show you the devastation, but also what people have been doing to reclaim and to rebuild the land so that people can come back. And I think that's really good to see.
Great sidebar.
Agreed.
First film I'm going to talk about from this section is called Blonde. It's directed by a director named Sakashita Yûichirô. I also entered the Q&A for this. This is a filmmaker that actually referenced Eric Rohmer and Woody Allen's influences. He wanted to write a film and make a film that's about scenes of witty banter. It's a film about a 30-year-old middle school teacher, and one day his entire class comes into school with blonde hair.
It's like weapons. But
you're right. Actually, that's a very interesting connection. Yeah, but it's not at all like weapons. So they come in and then they protest, and a lot of the film's actually narrated with voiceover from the teacher, who is a guy that is on the cusp of adulthood in a sense, and he doesn't really want to become 30. So the film is really about being 30 more than anything. And it keeps saying that. It keeps saying, oh, this is not a film about blonde hair. And basically the film is him trying to deal with the situation and how he has like one ally who's like a girl that's blonde or has turned blonde, and how the fallout of the event is that he kind of like loses his job and he's trying to get back into the good graces of the school, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. And how his relationship with like the protest changes over time as he tries to help the kids or help himself. And a lot of it is really like the VO, you see that he's kind of insufferable. He's kind of sucks. Like he's kind of full of himself. Like, and the film really is about how he is at this point of adulthood, but doesn't want to step into it. One of the first few scenes is that he's having dinner with his girlfriend, and girlfriend's like, oh, should we get married? He's like, oh, I don't think I'm ready for that right now. So let's not talk about it. And she's like, oh, okay, cool. I have the same feeling. And I'm like, okay, weird, really weird way of responding. That I think is like kind of the core of the film. And maybe to spoil it a little bit, like the joke of the film is like, oh, this is not a film about blonde hair. At the very end of the film, he goes, this is a film about silver hair because he's graying.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I will say though, this film got the Audience Choice Award, so I could be completely wrong because I don't know if you can tell, I didn't really like this film that much. I think the comedy doesn't really land for me. I think the writing is okay, and I think in the end of the day, the scenes that people keep talking about the situation, like they kind of get kind of repetitive. We're like spinning the wheels in the mud and like not really engaging with the idea here and like deepening it. Because I don't mind a talky film, of course, but like people need to change, or like ideas need to change, or we need to see new nuances. But I think the film kind of repeats itself a lot. And there's scenes that repeat themselves a lot too. Like multiple scenes with like one friend of his is in the same restaurant 3 times every time you see him. And the friend only exists in that restaurant. So to me, it feels a little bit like TV movie filmmaking because of like, I can feel a lower budget watching this, which is unfortunate. But maybe people responded to it. That's why I got the Audience Choice Award. I don't know.
Never trust an Audience Choice Award.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Although, one fun fact is that this is actually inspired by this situation that happened in the UK, where I think the girls in the school wanted to wear pants, but they're not allowed to because of the dress code. So what happened was that all the boys came in skirts. So this is somewhat inspired by this. So for him, he thinks that the hair thing is more like a Japanese version of that kind of rebellion. But anyway, that's Blonde. Next time I'm going to talk about is called Sato and Sato, which is directed by Amano Chihiro. And so this is one of the films in which I got to interview the director, Amano-san, which was really nice. And it should already be out. So you can go listen. It's a very short interview, very minor spoilers, if any. And I think this is actually one of my favorites from the festival. in terms of newer releases, this is a very simple film about a couple's relationship over 15 years as it very slowly breaks down. And the female character is played by Kishi Yukino, who, if you remember, is from Small, Slow But Steady, in which I wrote that whole essay years ago, and starring Hayazawa Mie, if I'm not wrong.
Hyo Hayazawa, who's in Egoist, where I interviewed Daishi Matsunaga, who directed him.
Wow, so many connections. Small world.
Yeah.
And I think if you listen to the interview, you can see what the film's really about, which is like, it's kind of about how dynamics of gender in Japan are changing. And the inciting incident of the film is that in the early parts of the relationship, what's happening with the male character, his name is Tomotsu. Tomotsu is trying to pass the bar and he keeps failing. And then one year, his girlfriend, Sachiko, is like, oh, how about we study this together and we'll take the exam together and maybe they'll help you pass the bar. That year, she passes the bar and he does not. And this is like the third time he's done it. And so she becomes a lawyer and he's still studying to pass the bar. This isn't really a spoiler, but basically, like in that 15 years, she becomes, in a way, a breadwinner for the family. They have a child and he is still trying to pass the bar, like, I don't know, like 10 years into this, and how that strains the relationship. And I think what's really interesting is that the film is about how the dynamics change, because like women being more in the workforce and all that kind of stuff. And also the fact that you now have relationships in which men are not always the highest earners in the partnership. And the film's also in this like women's empowerment section. So these films show women being more empowered in society. But I think what's interesting here is that this character of Tomotsu, his male insecurity is so strong. And that's actually one of the biggest problems for women's empowerment, because his ego is getting in the way of everything. And that's why the relationship is like struggling. Because if you were to step back from this, like a woman who is the sole breadwinner and he's like a stay-at-home dad, like if you look at it from a different angle, it's like, oh, this is very progressive and like this can be a vision of a family that we didn't usually used to have. And that's also okay. But obviously for Tomotsu, that is not okay, right? His ego is way too bruised to accept a situation like that. So that's, for me, the core of that conflict. Because so much of the burden ends up being on Sachiko to provide as well as to deal with this emotional immaturity from him. Kishi Yukino, once again, putting in an incredible performance and easily falling in love with her again on screen. This time she gets to speak, unlike Small, Slow But Steady, and she also gets to smile, which I also really like, because in Small, Slow But Steady, she really doesn't smile much. She has an incredible smile, and I think it kind of helps you understand when things are great and when things are bad. Like seeing her expression and like seeing the way that she is. This is a very simple film, and I think if you enjoy something about relationships in a very kind of small, like two-hander style way, this is something worth watching.
So excited to see this, especially after I heard your interview with Amano-san. I think she speaks really well about the choices that she makes in her films, and like you asked very specific questions, and I feel like she really met you at that level, which was really great.
I really like hearing about how she rehearsed with them, with the writer, and like how they kind of built the relationship, because this is a film with a lot of ellipses because it's doing 15 years. It's skipping a lot of time. And I think they needed a strategy to make sense of this for the actors as well as like for the audience to like feel the passage of time. Moving on to another film called All Greens, directed by Koyama Takashi. This is a film about three high school girls who are sort of like a misfit gang. At first, they're not really friends with each other, and then through the course of the film, become friends because they together concoct a plan to grow weed and sell it to make money to leave the dead-end town they're living in.
Incredible.
Yeah, this is actually based on a novel also called All Greens, written by at the time, 21-year-old student named Namiki Do, which I didn't know going in. This is a film that also has like a nuclear plant in the town, so it's kind of like a town. This is close to Tokyo, if I'm not wrong. I forgot the name of it. And the town sucks. That's why you have drug dealers, you got like gangsters, the school sucks, the bullies in the school. And the main character, played by Minami Sara, is also like really into rap. So she's like going to these ciphers, which is really cool. I really like this rap stuff. Like I actually really fuck with this. And like I like the vibe of this film a lot. And I think it sounds like it'll be kind of a crime caper film, which it does have a little bit of that. But I think at the end of the day, this film is actually about teenage angst and how much they like commiserate over their shared angst being stuck in this town. And that's why they have to make this money, make the green so they can leave. And for some reason, I like really liked this as a whole. And I think a lot of it comes down to the actresses and actors in this who create really nice characters that you want to spend time with. And that generally, I think the vibe and like the tone of the film is very inviting, even though it is kind of like this like dead end town. And I think a lot of times, like when you see high school depicted in Japanese films, it's either like a neutral space or a very nostalgic space. Whereas this one is like a kind of a shit space. Like it's not great. They don't like this. And I think that's a bit different. And I'm sure that there are other films that do this, but it's like one of the few that I've seen that is like exploring it in this direction where school sucks.
It makes me think of, and so we put goldfish in the pool.
Oh.
Like the dissatisfaction and angst with the home and school life in a dead-end town and wanting to leave. So doing something rebellious in the name of, if not being able to escape, venting frustration.
Yeah. And honestly, my favorite scenes of this are the three girls just hanging out and like sharing their dreams. And like, I think they spend a lot of time giving you context as to why their lives suck, which I think is really important. So like, it takes a very long time for the caper to begin actually in this film. And I really didn't mind that at all. Like the plot of it was almost like less important than the feelings that they have. I will say my one qualm of the film is that I don't like the ending because it gets a little zany in a way that runs counter to its more rooted feelings. Like it sounds like, very silly, film's about we, haha, so funny, 420, but the film is actually really rooted in something real, which is like the angst, which I think I've seen people say that's a bit more like stereotypical, but I think it's fine. Like it still works for me. That's all greens.
I just had such an aha moment that, and so we put goldfish in the pool would tie in really well with some of my 10th grade curriculum.
Oh.
Gotta teach it. It's very digestible. So less than an hour, right?
It's 28 minutes.
20 minutes. Yeah. That's how you can get Eli to watch more movies again, is to have them assign them to his students.
So we gotta assign Eli movies to teach his students.
It is funny the amount of things that like I experience in life. And I'm like, can I use this in like the classroom? Like, how can I tie this in?
Forever a teacher.
It's my lens.
It is.
Speaking of lens, Ben went to the Tokyo International Film Festival and saw movies that were filmed with lenses.
Not the next one, because the next one's an animated film.
No! Oh, so close, Eli, but
wow.
Good job.
The one juncture when it wouldn't have worked.
The next film is called The Last Blossom, directed by Kinoshita Baku. He's also, I think, I'm not sure what the role is, but he directed or was the showrunner for this anime called Odd Taxi, which I haven't seen, but I believe has anthropomorphic animals
Anthropomorphic.
in it. Anthropomorphic. Thank you, teacher. Animals in it. So this one has an anthropomorphic flower in it, which is the titular Last Blossom. This is a film that I guess pairs nicely with maybe Pale Flower because it's also what I call Yakuza ennui core. He's also inspired by Kitano as well. And I think this film has a lot of shades of Kitano. It even has a scene of like fireworks, which I was like, what's the point of the fireworks? No idea, but Hanabi, I guess, haha. Anyway, the film is about a Yakuza member who also has come out of jail. And then maybe he hasn't come out of jail, but basically he starts to have a relationship with a woman who has a child. And he kind of becomes a sort of father figure / partner to this mother and child. But the relationship is never really quite fully romantic, but he just has a soft spot for them and takes care of them. And the film is told in the flashback of him currently lying in jail, serving a life sentence after killing somebody, thinking back on his time with this woman and her child. And this flower starts talking to him and like asking him kind of like, was it worth it? Why do you do all this? And the key question is, why didn't you tell her that you loved her? And this is a very tight, I think almost exactly 90-minute film with a very strong visual and narrative motifs that built to a very, very precise emotional point at the very end of the film. every single motif builds exactly to this one thing to kind of like tie everything together. I think it's very well written in that sense. Like there's so many motifs. Like there's like an Othello motif, meaning like, you know, that reversey game with the black and white pieces. And there's like a motif about how he is a map maker and likes to draw maps and how he remembers things in grids. And there's just like so much stuff going on. And then they all just tie together to this one moment at the very end, which is when that woman is older and she's thinking about him. And she goes back to the town that they used to live in. It is all animated. And it's a nice kind of animation. It's not like the typical, I would say, Japanese animation kind of drawing. I mean, it still kind of is, but I think I like the way that the faces and like eyes are a bit different from the regular. I think my only really qualm with this is I don't really understand why the flower exists in the story. Like, it is a bit of a motif. It's a balsam flower, or hosenka in Japanese. And somebody asked me in the Q&A, like, why did you choose this flower? And he said that it's because the flower reacts to people touching it. I think if you touch it, it releases its seeds or something like that. And there's a scene that does that, which is a very nice scene. But I don't fully understand why we needed the flower to like interrogate him as he's like lying in jail as the way to get into the story. It feels a little random. But so all in all, I think I do really like The Last Blossom. I thought it was nicely animated and like functions really well as like this emotional film. I was like a little drunk watching it, so maybe that's why I didn't know what's going on sometimes. Just spoiler, or like not spoiler, disclaimer. And so maybe that was why I was a bit lost sometimes. But beautiful and well written, I think, from a structural level especially, which is like what you really need from an animated film that's like tight.
Oh, what was the oh man. Wait, I'm forgetting the title and then I'll frame it properly. The animated film from last year that we all loved.
Look Back.
Oh. Actually, I don't really have a bridge. Never mind.
I heard that people were saying on Letterboxd that 100 meters is like a male look back, which I agree with a little bit, but not 100%. But I will just say I love 100 meters and everyone should go watch 100 meters. It's so good.
That's like that meme guy who has only seen The Boss Baby watching any other movie. This is reminding me a lot of The Boss Baby.
Okay, moving on to Lost Land, directed by Fujimoto Akio. This is a film about Rohingya refugees, so about to get real heavy here.
Yep.
It's about a sister and brother, and they're like 9 and 5 years old, and they are trying to move from Bangladesh to Malaysia to start a new life, and they're basically escaping as refugees, going through unofficial channels to become undocumented immigrants in Malaysia to start a new life. And this is a lot to watch. And I think what's important is to know the background of the making of this film. Director Fujimoto got these kids who are real Rohingya refugees who are stateless with no passports to be in this film. And there are like 200 other Rohingya refugees also in this film playing all kinds of different roles as like people on the boats being shipped, I guess, like towards Malaysia, or like jumping fences, cutting through fences to cross national borders. They have a short interlude in Thailand. And as far as I can tell, at least, like from watching the film, that Fujimoto does a really good job of like making sure that the story he's telling is real, because it's using real people, using the real language, and like not trying to recreate it in a sense with people that he has easier access to. Like he had to find these people to be in the film, right? Which is already, I think, quite a difficult part of the filmmaking process. But I think when I think about films about real crises that are happening right now, and like the fictional accounts of them, or like the fictional narratives of them, I find it a bit difficult to think about, like, in a sense of like, what is the value of making a film like this versus, say, a documentary? Because like he's telling us, oh, I can't tell you where I found them, or because of their safety and all that. But I'm also thinking then maybe they shouldn't be on film. You know, what about that part of that safety, right? And then of course, when filmmakers make films like this, people love giving them prizes. This got a special jury prize at Venice. And people love films like this because they get to give them prizes, and then the festival gets to feel like, oh, we support this movement. But what really is done for the actual people living through the thing.
Or even the actors who took part in the production.
Yeah, and I feel weird, like, I don't know, this guy's like a Japanese, like an East Asian Japanese man, right? Who's like making a movie about like Southeast Asian, like brown kids.
Yeah, I mean, I might be wrong in this, but like based on this conversation that I saw with him and Ratanaruang, who directed Morte Cucina, he asked him about his background and like whether he came from documentary. But I think there was a little nugget of information that I got from like a side comment from him, but I think he does a lot of volunteer work. And I think that's how he first accessed these stories, because of his volunteerism. And that is kind of an interesting detail that helps me maybe like give him the benefit of the doubt of like how he accessed this. It's not like he came in to mine necessarily the story, but that he truly learned about the story and learned about the things that they were going through, and then felt like he needed to tell the story to more people. Because a friend of mine was like saying that we really don't give the Rohingya refugee crisis a lot of time of day, and that like a lot of people don't know about it. I don't know that much about it, and I know about it very vaguely, and it is something that is still happening. And my friend called it like a big shame of Southeast Asia, and I think that makes sense. And the fact that like we're not doing anything about it and we're not saying anything about it does give credence to the feeling that, oh, it is valuable to have a film do that. Although I do question the efficacy of it in this manner. I don't think I'm saying the film shouldn't exist in that sense, but I'm just like wondering what is better to do with this. And I think sitting there like watching this film that's supposed to be an emotional film because of the narrative and like the way it's trying to give you a pretty strong emotional experience by the end of it. Even though I'm not having a good time watching this, I do feel like there's a feeling that I'm mining this crisis for emotional experience, which I don't know if I feel comfortable about. That happens in a lot of other films as well, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like that's the whole filmography of like the Dardenne brothers. Like I feel like they like mine like social issues for like emotional gain, right?
I mean, not saying it's bad or not. It's just saying that that's what's happening, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken before about my mixed relationship to Holocaust film. Like I remember when we were in East Asian cinema together, and the like somewhat intense debate that broke out around City of Life and Death about the Japanese assault on Nanking. This is the double-edged sword of movies about real atrocity, especially contemporary atrocity.
I feel conflicted thinking about things like this, and I guess it's worth watching it to figure out whether you think it's worth what you get when you watch the film. And I think partially like my own experience watching it is like, oh, I go in, I feel bad for this, and then I leave the theater, and then that's it. Like I can leave the theater feeling good that I felt bad about that, but I'm not really galvanized to really do anything about this. And whether I should be is a whole other question. In the way, even though it's a tragic or like it's a sad thing I'm watching, I do feel like I'm still being entertained by it, or it's giving me more value than it's giving the people that are dealing with this right now. It's making me feel good about myself for having a moral compass, but like, so? I don't know, it's a complicated feeling. And I think you can see that with a lot of festivals and how they give out prizes and stuff like that. And I think it's interesting to investigate and think about. Anyway, last of this section, which is the longest section because I watched so many films from Japanese filmmakers, is Echoes of the Orient, directed by Yang Liping, who is not Japanese. What am I talking about? He's actually a Chinese filmmaker who has moved to Japan and now is making films mostly in Japanese. This is a pretty long film about a woman who works in a company that teaches people how to do Japanese manners, like immigrants and stuff like that. And in a bar one day, she gets proposed to by a Chinese painter because he realizes that she wants to get married, or because she's single and stuff like that. And then they kind of start having this, not romantic, but like nice friendship brewing. And it's kind of about being lonely and sad in Tokyo because he's like running away from his family and she's like wants to have a boyfriend or a husband. And there's really not much going on here from a plot perspective, but it is to some level like works for me because it kind of met me in the same place where I was also a bit sad and lonely in Tokyo. And I was like, huh, interesting. And like the scenes are, I think, fairly well directed in a kind of slow cinema way. Although I would say that it is a little overlong in general, but the director Yang has a nice control of these scenes. And like we feel like these are real people who are like feeling this way. And a pretty unique setup. And I always found these like transnational filmmakers quite interesting because he's not from Japan. So then what kind of stories he's going to tell in Japan. And it does make sense that he's telling these stories about immigrants and stuff like that. I think the film is a little too slow, but otherwise, I might find his future work interesting if he can find something a bit more precise to do, or like something with a bit more enticing premise maybe. Because this one's a bit low energy in a sense. There's not much conflict in this. It's really just like, oh, here's some sad people and how they live and like get to know each other. And it's like, yeah, that's nice. But like, I think I need a little more of, anyway.
Yeah. I get what you mean. Let's move on from the lesser known Japanese filmmakers to some of the more well-known Japanese filmmakers. Unfortunately, I'm looking at this list and I don't think I know these Japanese
I
filmmakers.
don't really
as
know
well.
them. They're just a bit more well-known. There's only 2 of them. And if you've been watching my first reel in which I talked about all the films I was going to see, there are a few things that dropped off. Like I was supposed to see this other film from the previous section called Echoes of Motherhood, another film about Echoes, bad titles, but I didn't watch them. Echoes of Orient, also not a great title. The Japanese title is Nameless Birds, which also makes no sense. This film is called Labyrinth, directed by Kawamori Shoji. This is an anime film. It's about smartphones and how they're taking over our lives and about social media. Kawamori Shoji is most famous for creating this series of anime called Macross, which I have not seen, but I'm extremely intrigued by because there are films that are about mecha, like Gundam mecha, and about intergalactic war.
I truly thought you meant mecha like like pilgrimage.
Oh, no. Mecha, like mechanical robots and stuff. So it's about intergalactic war between, I don't know, aliens or like different human races in different places. And how, at the end of the day, all these wars are won with singing idols and love.
Oh, lit. Yes. I'm here.
Like, that sounds
I'm
kind of lit,
awoken.
right? It's like, wait a minute, what? The series is called Macross. This is not Macross at all.
Got it.
Labyrinth is about smartphones and social media and also has a huge mecha fight and a musical number, which makes so much sense after I tell you that. And it looks good. And it kind of has a mix of 2D and 3D CG, which doesn't always work for me, but this generally is okay, although there's some parts where I don't like how it looks with the 3D mix. I think at the end of the day, this is a pretty simplistic, social media is kind of bad movie. Basically, the premise is that this girl and her friend's kind of an influencer. Then her friend posts a embarrassing video of her, and then that goes a little viral. And then she's like, oh my God, I'm going viral with this embarrassing video. Then her ego basically splits in 2. And she enters like a smartphone world, and then her physical body is possessed by a version of her that has no shame. And so her physical body becomes this like woman that wants to become so influential and have 100 million followers or something. And then she's off in this smartphone world talking to stickers, like 2D stickers that are like talking to her, trying to escape this smartphone world and like rejoin her body, which already, this sounds a little insane, right?
Like Inside Out plus Hakutua.
Yeah, kind of. Like, it's like confusing because you're like, oh, she's physical, but she's not. And then like her physical body is possessed by her, but like insane.
Huh.
I think if you watch this with your brain turned off, it works. But I think the commentary on like social media is really, really freaking thin, like very thin. This commentary, it's not really working for me, but it does look good. And there's this nice mecha fight, which is also about, for some reason, the mecha are rabbits. But anyway, it's hard to explain. Might be worth watching if you want to see like some flashing lights in the anime film. This is something you can watch. Very different tone from the previous one I was talking about, which is like sad and shit. Anyway, next one is from director Nakano Ryota, who directed a film I saw recently called Her Love Boils Bathwater. And that one's about a woman who gets a terminal cancer diagnosis and she tries to restore the family bathhouse before she dies and like get everyone in her life back on track before she passes away.
Oof.
That sounds so rough.
It sounds so rough, but it's actually quite a nice, sweet, bittersweet film. It's really nice. And also about kind of a complex family dynamic. Bringing them down to a portable size is based on a non-fiction essay about a writer named Riko Murai's brother's death and how she deals with it. I'm not sure how much the film fictionalizes this, but the film is about the writer finding out that her brother dies, but he's kind of characterized as this good-for-nothing who keeps asking her for money. And then because both their parents are also passed on, she is the person to deal with his funeral arrangements. And she goes to collect the body/ashes with her brother's ex-wife and their daughter. And also, the brother and the ex-wife have a son that used to live with him before he passed away. And that son is now under custody of the state. So basically, the daughter and the son, one of them is with the ex-wife, and the custody is with the brother. And so they're like kind of split up and they're trying to like get the family back together. And in a way, the film is about the sister learning about her brother and like figuring out whether he really was a good for nothing. And she gets visions of him and he talks to her in these visions. I think this is pretty, compared to Her Love Boils Bathwater, which I really like, is a very kind of almost mainstream, easy to watch, but pretty complex idea of family, I would say, and accepting the kinds of families that are possible. This one is pretty simple because it's kind of about, oh, my sibling that I kind of don't like dies, so what happens? And a lot of the film is trying to justify it by being like, oh, actually, he's not that bad, which I think is not that interesting. I think it's more interesting for it to be, he does suck, but do you love him?
Yeah, that's a more interesting question.
Yeah, more interesting question. So this is a bit too twee in the sense of like, oh, let's justify his actions because like, oh, we just didn't understand him kind of thing. Or like, we thought it was a lie, but it wasn't a lie. Like that kind of thing, which is like, okay, I guess. But like, that doesn't really do it for me dramatically. It's kind of like, oh, I just thought about it wrongly. And that's not that interesting. This is one of those films with like a whole section dedicated to like talking about reconstruction and the aftermath of the earthquake, which I found very fascinating. It's set in Tagajo, which is quite near the epicenter of the earthquake. And one of the scenes of the film is actually featuring the library in the town because the entire film is set in this town. And they're like, oh, this whole library has been rebuilt. And here's a room in which we have like a tribute to the restoration efforts or reconstruction efforts. And I was like, wow, interesting. It felt almost like an ad for the town, but I found it kind of fascinating to see. Because I don't think the town maybe is even from the book. So it might be some kind of collaboration. I found it to be really interesting. And like maybe even a good way to like revitalize places culturally using film, which is kind of cool actually.
Yeah, you sort of like memorialize places as well. Like especially thinking about like the decreasing population in the countryside in Japan. And yeah.
So anyway, that's the end of this section. There's just 2 films here. And now I'm going to move on to the last section, which is the international films I saw. The first one I'm going to talk about is called Morte Cucina. It's directed by Panic Ratanaruang. He's most famous for this film called Last Life in the Universe that stars Tadanobu Asano. This one also has a cameo from Tadanobu Asano, which really doesn't go anywhere. And it's kind of like a fun thing. Basically, this woman is about a woman taking revenge on a man that sexually assaulted her, but by taking a route that is a bit more unconventional. And I went into this thinking that it would be kind of like a revenge thriller. This is not a revenge thriller at all. This is a slow burn movie about how we can kill people with something that almost resembles love. And that's kind of like strange. This is going to be a divisive film, I think. My friend did not like this. I am very on the fence with this, but I did find it very interesting and I do think about it. And I think what Director Panic is trying to do here is talk about obsession and love. And your mileage may vary with this, but there are some provocative scenes in this, like very provocative scenes in this. When you listen to the interview, because I'm editing it right now, you will hear some mention of some stuff and they will clue you into the kind of provocative stuff we're talking about.
Ben, I know that you had a moment where you were getting into Verhoeven. I've not seen L, but it sounds like it could occupy a similar space.
Yeah, that's actually, that's a very interesting comparison. I think L is trickier. This is a film in which the main character, played by Bella Bunsang, called Sao, is very hard to read. Whereas like Isabelle Huppert plays a character that's a bit easier to read. But Sao is this character in which you're like, what are you doing? We know this man did something to you, then why are you doing all these things I don't understand? But essentially, she's playing the long game of revenge because she is trying to kill him, but in a very unconventional way. I don't want to say too much because it kind of spoils the kind of film it is, which is like, you're like, kind of like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is this film? You know, like, what is it trying to do? And I think it is not a film that has a typical genre plot. And so you kind of have to sit with it and like try to understand what is happening. And I think Panic's style is that he starts with character. He writes with characters in mind first. And so it is kind of a character study film, and like trying to understand how this character Sal ticks and like how she is plotting and like enacting her revenge, and how the revenge almost changes the way she thinks about this man.
How is the Chris Doyle cinematography?
I think it's okay. Like, I don't think it's as like, I don't know, infectious as I wish it could be. Apparently Chris Doyle has mellowed out a lot, according to the director, and it was much easier to work with. But it's a lot of still shots, although there are some shots of food that made me really hungry, like slices of pork belly and stuff like that. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I do feel hungry watching this. A very weird movie to feel hungry in, but yeah, and I think maybe that was the point of it.
Am I wrong that Bella Boonsang reposted the reel that you made?
Yeah. She was great. I also interviewed her alongside the director.
Lit.
Cool.
It's a fun interview, and Director Panic has like zero filter, and you guys have not listened to this, but that's a very fun interview. So you want to hear the kind of director he is. It's kind of like fun to hear what he says and like how he approaches filmmaking. And I attended in conversation between him and Director Fujimoto, who directed Lost Land, and kind of an interesting pair of directors to put together. Very different approaches, but they both came together and like said the same thing, which is that they both thought of screenplays as shopping lists, and that they prefer to make the films through the act of filmmaking. So it's truly like, this is a blueprint to help my investors understand the kind of movie I'm going to make, but I'm going to figure this shit out on set. And I think that's the right way to kind of approach filmmaking usually. It doesn't mean it always works, but it means that you at least make something interesting or like closer to interesting.
Yeah.
And spontaneous.
Yeah, like letting life happen rather than trying to like exactly what is on the page.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, like, I feel like this is like the argument of deep cut, right? Like, that film is a director's medium more so than a screenwriter's medium.
Yeah. And I think you can see like Penn is very candid about how he feels he has like films that don't work. And I think that is part of like the experimentation. I think he also was very clear of like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing sometimes. Or like he's just like figuring stuff out. And a lot of his crew that he has been worked with, like for many, many years, are like holding up the fort that he does not know how to do, like stuff he doesn't know. Like he is just a director. And I think that's kind of sweet. Like he knows that it's collaborative, that he has people covering his ass in ways that he doesn't even know. And that they just want him to make whatever he wants to make, which is, I don't know, kind of nice.
Yeah, nice that that's a little bit less egotistical than some directors can be about their relationship to their crew.
Yeah. This is an interesting movie to watch. I think your mileage will vary a lot with this. There are some seriously like, scenes in this. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't want to tell you guys right now.
Sign me up.
You can ask me off mic, but if you're interested, but yeah. Next is Palestine 36, directed by Annemarie Jacir. And I also attended the Q&A for this. This is a film set in 1936 in Palestine about an uprising against the British colonial powers at the time. And it, I think, also kind of echoes a bit of what's happening in Palestine right now. And this is a shoot that was mired in a lot of difficulty because her last film was 2017. And she's been trying to make this for a long, long time because this is the biggest budget film that Jacir has made in terms of like budget as well as scale. The kind of film is a war epic-ish or like historical epic. Whereas like her previous film, Woji, which I saw, is like a very simple two-hander in the car talking, conversation in the cars type of thing. This is like, I got horses, I got tanks, I got explosions, a lot more shit going on. But the first day of shoot was October 14, 2023, and they were shooting in Palestine. So like a week before shit went down, so they had to stop the shoot and like restart the shoot 4 times. They moved some of the shooting to Jordan, but they still largely shot the film in Palestine.
Wow.
So they were supposed to start shooting a week after 10/7.
Yeah, a week after, exactly. Yeah.
Whoa.
And they tried, I guess, but I think they had to reschedule and stuff like that. So they had to restart 4 times. And of course, like things were developing at a time while they were shooting as well. So that's probably why they restarted 4 times. And I think just making this film is a miracle that they like kept the whole thing shot in Palestine. Like you could have moved the whole thing out. But I think I was reading some like interview with her and she was talking about how like to make this, they had to like rebuild a town and like they had to like grow the crops and stuff like that. Like that level of like preparation to create the environment in Palestine for this like historical film. So it's like really like a big undertaking to make this film. And as a whole, thinking about the film and like what it's trying to tell this story, if we ignore its kind of like present day context, we think about it just as a historical film. that is trying to tell about this uprising against the British. The film's only 2 hours. And I think it does need to be longer. Either longer or actually probably maybe needed to be like a mini series, because there are just so many perspectives that Jacir wants to have you see. And for her, the main character is actually the village. It's not the people. I thought it would be like, oh, we come in and we follow like a bunch of guerrilla warfare people and then like see how they like disrupt the British. But it's not like that at all. Like we have scenes like that, but then mostly the film like moves on very quickly from one perspective to another to show you a different side. Like we have pastors, we have villagers, we have kids, children, all different perspectives and how they kind of either psychologically or physically join the uprising. But I think because of that, it does spread itself very thin across all its narratives, and you never really feel like you get a complex narrative about what it means to be in a protest or uprising like this. And then I think very par for the course of films about like the evil British, like I would say they're painted a bit one-dimensionally, which maybe is true, I guess, maybe of the time from the way that we look at it now, but doesn't make it super interesting. And then like it kind of does this trope of like, oh, the one bad white guy and the one good white guy who's like sympathetic to the cause. But in a way, I would say that maybe all of this is not important at all. I don't actually need to see the white people, because if the village is the main character, then I could maybe spend more time with the village and maybe even think of the British as faceless people. Like in a way, they're not important to such an extent that I don't even need to humanize them in any way. But I don't know what kind of movie that would be. I haven't really seen someone try something like that, but it would at least give you more time with the main characters, which are like the Palestinian people in these different groups. And like, let us get something a bit more complex and maybe some kind of more interpersonal conflict in the ways they think about the uprising. Because in a way, it's very easy for everyone to kind of come into the uprising. But I think conflict is important for you to understand how you pull people into the same side. Because I'm sure they have different...
Build coalition.
Yeah, I don't know. But I still think like it's worth watching just because like how many films from Palestine look like this or are like this, you know? And it, at the very least, is kind of like a good historical lesson as to what happened at the time. Because I think we don't really know that much about Palestinian history. We might know what's going on now, but like it echoes a lot of what's happening in the past as well, with like different enemies and stuff like that. I mean, film does look good. And there was a really interesting Q&A question about like music. The film ends on a scene of somebody playing the bagpipes. And Jacir's like, did you know the bagpipes are from the Arab world? But we associate it so much with the Scottish. And so the bagpipes are also kind of tied to that kind of civil war as well, and like about protest. And in a way, she was like trying to bring that into like reclaim that for the Arab world, which is like really interesting.
Are the bagpipes played like diegetic, or they're non-diegetic to the...
No, yeah, it's diegetic. You just watch this man play the bagpipes at the end. Like it's just like almost like an end credit scene almost. Another interesting thing about the film is that in between scenes, she shows you these archival footage of the time, and she got all this footage from the archives of the British while they were in Palestine. Of them like, I don't know, blowing stuff up and stuff like that. And that's like kind of fascinating, almost uncanny to watch. But I did see people like, I guess maybe find it a bit, criticize it a little bit for, I think, using some sort of AI upscaling or colorizing of that footage, which I can kind of understand, but maybe it does lend a weird, uncanny quality to the film. Seeing this and being like, is this real? Or is this reenacted? Like, and I think mostly they are real. They're like 4:3 compared to the widescreen of the film.
I mean, that makes me think of our conversation around the archival footage in Jackie and how that blurs the line.
Yeah.
Check out our episode on Jackie.
Yeah. It is interesting because it's like, wait, here's some real stuff, and then here's me reenacting that real stuff. And I think also kind of reminds me more of like how it feels like almost like a classroom film, which reminds me a little bit of our episode.
Jose Rizal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think maybe like, I don't know, maybe it has that function, which is not a bad function to have either for a film. Also, this one won I don't know what the prize is called, the grand prize at Tokyo International Film Festival.
That's great.
Like the top prize?
Yeah, the top prize. I don't know what it's called. I forgot the name of it.
Yeah. And it's Palestine's selection for the Oscars this year.
I did get to chat with the director a little bit, and so we might get an interview with her at some point. Look out for that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Also, during the Q&A, people kept mentioning Lawrence of Arabia. And she was like, oh, a lot of Lawrence of Arabia mentions. It's a bit strange. It's not really a film I necessarily want to associate that much to, I guess.
Were you seeing Lawrence of Arabia, Ben?
I mean, no. Like, I get that it's like the desert. I don't know, man. And like, there's white people.
A lot of mentions of Boss Baby coming up. I wasn't really intending that.
Anyway, the perspective is very different. But people are being like, oh, like, this is so epic, just like Lawrence of Arabia. I'm like, oh.
Okay.
Okay.
I see. Okay.
Okay, quickly moving on. Running out of time here.
Yeah. From one epic to another.
A different kind of epic from extremely important director to the podcast, Kelly Reichardt, the Mastermind.
Kelly.
The Mastermind is about a character named J.B. Mooney, played by Josh O'Connor, who concocts a plan to steal some paintings from a museum in broad daylight. Shit goes south, and then he has to run from the law. He's not a very good mastermind. That's the joke of the film. It's an interesting film. I found it a bit too slow, I think, for my taste, which is funny because I love Kelly Reichardt. But I think as part of like her genre send-up like series, like if Meek's Cutoff is an anti-Western, this makes sense as an anti-heist film. I think she's doing it correctly. It is kind of a bit of a fuck you to the heist film. And I think she's kind of like fucking with you when she makes this film, which I think is like pretty dope.
I know people who have hated this.
I'm sure. I wish there was just two main characters rather than one. Because the things I love about showing up and like First Cow is that there are two people and they talk to each other and it's like fun to watch them talk to each other. Or even something like Wendy and Lucy where there's a dog, you know?
Yeah.
Or First Cow, where there's a cow.
I feel like that ties in with my qualm where I just really wish that she gave Alana Haim like more to do. Because like you have that there, right? And you're so much, there's power there because like there's a final like sort of phone call scene between them. And you're like realizing, okay, this is the relationship that we're investigating here as part of this portrait of this guy who's extremely flawed. But I feel like there's stuff to dig there. And I feel like Alana Haim is so underutilized here. I feel like she has a bigger impact in fucking one battle after another. She's in there for like 2 minutes, but her bomb is like incredible.
Yeah, I think when it becomes kind of a road trip film, it kind of like loses a bit of steam for the Mastermind. And I think it needs like when John Magaro appears, like it's kind of fun.
John Magaro's in it?
Yeah, when John Magaro appears, you're like, wait, what's happening here? And then he's kind of like saying funny things. And then that's when the movie lights up, like when there's like somebody else.
Yeah.
But there's so many scenes of Josh O'Connor like doing stuff on his motel desk. And you're like, I guess it's like cool, but it's like not interesting. And like, I get it. But I think at the end of the day, this is a film about the context of 1970. Because I see a lot of people writing about that and I get it. I think after you watch it, you get it. The ending is very important. The ending is a big joke. I think it's more interesting to think about the whole film as a whole rather than as like a scene by scene basis, because the film is about how like there's a metaphor here that you can dig into. And I think I don't want to talk too much about that, but it's like J.V. Mooney is this character that kind of thinks very highly of himself. And that's why he's like, oh, I'm a mastermind. I'm going to steal some paintings. I'm not just like a lowly bank robber. Like I'm cultured, like a high class mastermind, but not really. And then like, is a schlub. And then when he runs away, he's not very good at it either. And then like resorts to like petty crime. And it's like, you're not that cool, dude. And while that's happening, people are protesting the Vietnam War in the film. This is in the text of the film. So definitely Reichardt is trying to say something here. I use this idea in my IG reel, which is like, it's about a lousy individualist trying to make it big in a world that celebrates individualism.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And protesting is a collectivist act. So it's like kind of interesting. And he's kind of like fooling himself, but he's actually a very privileged person that wants to steal, which makes no sense. So I think the context of his character is very important, but I think there's maybe more to dig into from a more intellectual academic standpoint rather than like a enjoyable film standpoint.
I mean, that makes me more excited to see it.
Yeah, you should. So that we can record an episode, Eli.
Yeah, please, Eli. I thought we made plans.
All right, last film. We're here.
Yes, the crown jewel of TIFF 38.
Yeah, the closing film of TIFF 38 was Hamnet, directed by Chloe Zhao. And spoiler alert, it was my favorite film of the festival.
Ah.
Yeah, like I think I didn't really expect to like this as much as I did. And I wasn't like trying to like it more, I think, but I did really like it and found it to be very moving. Hamnet is about Shakespeare and his wife, played by Paul Mescal and Jessie Buckley, respectively. And they basically have this relationship in which they have 3 kids, and then Hamnet is one of them. And Hamnet passes away, and then Shakespeare writes Hamlet, which is essentially the same name according to the film. And it is about the grief over losing a child. And I think what's interesting about this is that honestly, I started crying before Hamnet died, which is really interesting to me because I already knew he was going to die. Like, this is part of the plot of the film. Like, it's going to come. And there are scenes of great beauty of just the family being a family that I thought was just like amazing. I think Zhao has such a strong command of feeling and the ability to give you a very strong cinematic sense of feeling of like a family unit that loves each other, or like a couple, like when Shakespeare and his wife Agnes are falling in love, like that feeling of love, lust, and infatuation, like you can really feel that. And Agnes is this like character that's kind of like a mystic, not like real magic, but she like has superstition, like she like makes ointments and stuff like that. So she loves herbs, she loves the fucking forest, like she's like really in tune of nature and stuff like that. She's like this kind of character, and you can feel her love for the forest as well. And then you can really just feel stuff when you're watching it. And like, I just can't explain sometimes why I feel that way. And I think maybe it's just like how strongly it's being acted by both Mescal and Buckley. And I think Buckley here is like doing some like God level work. This is like some like intense shit. Like, because she's playing this like mystic character. And I think you can feel every emotion that she is feeling. And that is like so powerful. And what I think is actually most interesting about the film is that I thought the film was about, okay, how does a family get over death of the child? Which already I think as an inciting incident should be quite powerful for most people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is actually not a film about getting over the death of your child. This is a film about trying to understand if somebody else is grieving the same way that you are grieving. And Shakespeare writing Hamlet as a response to his son's death is about how does Shakespeare deal with that. And for him, the answer is art. And then for his wife, it's like all this other stuff. For the wife, she's trying to understand her own loss, and she's trying to understand if her husband understands the loss the same way that she does. Because Shakespeare plays this character, and he's not really the main character. He's like a side character. The film is really like Buckley's film. And then she's just like, what is wrong with you? And why are you going to the theater so much when our son has just died? But he's busy doing Hamlet. And so it's so interesting to me that it's like about understanding rather than about just grief as is, you know? Like, it's really about how we understand each other. And it kind of made me have this epiphany about like what film and art and language is for, which is to help us understand each other. Even language is actually an imperfect way of communication, but language is the only thing we got.
Yeah.
Right? And I find that to be so fascinating. It's like, we want to be able to telepathically understand each other. And I think there's a very strong human desire for understanding of another person. But the only things we have are like very imperfect tools of language and art. And I feel like the film gave me this feeling of understanding that. And also what they create, which is this movie, gets 98% of the way to helping me understand these characters, which is very close, but also not perfect. And the point is that it's not perfect.
It's not.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's a pretty freaking powerful experience watching this film. So I definitely say go find this. Hopefully it opens wide.
I'm sure it's going to. It's going to be an Oscars player.
Yeah. Probably my favorite film of the year, I think, if I think about it that way. Yeah. Like, I just think, I don't know. I think Zhao's handling of this whole thing is like incredible. And I think the acting is really good. And it's not like all big stuff. Like, Buckley plays a very, very emotional character, but it's not all big, you know? And I think she's played very big roles as well. But there's a modulation here that really works.
Yeah. I was quite underwhelmed with the novel. And I was like, it was like, it was quite boring for like big chunks of it. But I think in hands like Chloe Zhao's, I think she is very capable of like driving emotion from that text into film. Like it reminds me like of how she like sort of dealt with the family stuff in Songs My Brother Taught Me. If you guys have seen that, like a very early Zhao film. And yeah, I think just like the intimacy that she gets with her actors is quite unparalleled, and just very excited to see this one.
I was able to watch an in conversation between Chloe Zhao and episode 1 of the podcast, Koreeda Hirokazu.
1 and 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting conversation because Koreeda was like, I guess, I don't know, very tied to the festival because, you know, he's like one of the most famous like international directors, like famous internationally, Japanese directors currently that still working. And they asked him who he wanted to talk to, and he said he wanted to talk to Chloe Zhao. And I think what was funny is that I think he thought of himself as an interviewer asking her questions, but like Chloe Zhao kept asking him questions. Like at one point she was like, "Can I ask you a question?" And he goes, "Oh, maybe just one." She like proceeds to ask him like 5 questions, and I think made this man kind of uncomfortable, which I love watching.
It's so funny.
And then she was like, "Oh, how long does it take you to write a script?" And he's like, "Oh, 2 days." And she's like, "What the fuck? Do you not sleep?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess I don't." And they're like, "What?"
His new film just got acquired by Neon. It's
Really?
I think it's gonna be a big play. Yeah.
He's shooting something right now. He was shooting something. He was shooting something during this conversation. Like something like this was his rest day.
wild.
It was crazy. But she talked a lot about like afterlife and stuff. Because she watched Afterlife before coming to talk to him. Which is also really funny. He talks a lot about how like Afterlife is like something that a lot of like international audiences really relate to, maybe even more so than the Japanese audience, which is kind of an interesting tidbit. And like it's interesting having them in conversation because I think they're such different filmmakers in a lot of ways. Like both, I guess, very humanist, but I think approaching it very differently. I think Koreeda has also become more of a workman-like director in more recent years. Yeah. Nothing against that, of course, but I think whereas like Zhao was really like filmmaker as artist type person.
Yeah, Eternals.
Like
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Artist in the Marvels world.
I feel like I need to watch the Eternals because I feel like she still thinks of that as like a bit of her baby as well, like in a certain way about family and stuff like that. Anyway, I just really love the way that Zhao talks about her emotions.
And just FYI, the film that Neon just acquired is the one that he is currently shooting. Okay, I'm going to quickly read the plot description. It's set in the near future. It's called Sheep in the Box. It's set in the near future where a couple takes in a state-of-the-art humanoid into their home as their son. It was inspired by the French children's novel The Little Prince.
It also sounds like
AI.
It sounds exactly like AI. Like, what
Yeah.
the heck?
Sheep
We'll
in the
see.
box.
Yep. Steven Spielberg versus Hirokazu Koreeda. Who comes out on top?
Oh, you know what else? Actually, that reminds me of something else too.
What?
Boss Baby.
Yes, we
Jesus.
go. Full circle, baby.
Comedy comes in threes.
We're here.
Well, yeah, anyway, that's all the films I saw.
Thank you so much, Ben, for sharing with us your films that you watched at this festival and your experience at the festival. I hope our audiences had a good time listening to this. And also, go watch the reels. They're great. Go watch the Instagram reels.
And I say different things on them, and I have to like edit them, and I keep them on the 3 minutes, which is really annoying. Because like when I start talking, I just keep going, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm talking way too much.
Yeah, and be sure you can be looking out. Maybe there will be some Wilson or hopefully Eli reels hitting your Instagram feeds soon as well. This is our soft launch of our on-screen personas.
Are we gonna be a
maybe.
video podcast? No, that's too much work.
No.
We'll give you reels as a compromise.
Yeah. Honestly, it was kind of fun doing the reels because like I had to like, I guess like help me think about the films immediately because I had to like go make something and like take notes for the films. So like it was kind of nice. Will I keep doing that? Who knows? I'm glad that I just committed to doing it for the festival and not for everything I'm seeing.
Yeah. Could be good. I did just watch Die My Love last week and have thoughts.
Bro.
I will save them. So yeah, whenever you guys see the Lynn Ramsey.
When will I see the Lim Ramsey? I hope
Hopefully soon, Ben. Like it's out in Hong Kong. It's out in the US, Eli.
Well,
Yeah, well, if you can clear my work schedule, then I'll gladly go see it.
I'm going to call your boss and tell him to fire you.
That's how you clear his work schedule.
So what do we have coming up in Upkeep territory then? We have Die My Love, we have Mastermind.
These are the big ones. I think
those
there might
are the
be
big
more.
ones. Yeah. We have a Cohen coming out this year.
Oh wait, a Cohen already came out. Honey, Don't.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's out? It's not out here, but I guess it's out in the US.
I have not heard good things.
Yeah. Could be fun. We haven't hated on something in a while.
I want them to get back together.
They will.
Maybe in 10 years, I think. It'll take a while.
Yeah.
Do you want to do the outro, or have you spoken so much and you need to like rest your breath?
I'm so tired, but once again, I'd like to thank the people at the festival for letting me come in as part of the press. Invite me again next year, please. I will come back. I love being in Japan. Give me a reason. Just give me a reason. I will make more of this content for you. Thank you for listening to Deep Cut. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts to help others discover the show. A great way to support us is to leave a review or comment on episodes directly on Spotify. If you want to chat with us and other fans of Deep Cut, come join our Discord server where we talk about movies, TV, music, and share what we're up to. We also have a Patreon if you'd like to support us with a monthly subscription. Thank you to all our Patreon supporters, and a very special thanks to our Patreon Deep Cut Pick supporters, Leah Lai and Nicholas Gao. You can keep up with Deep Cut on Instagram, where I've been posting all my reels, Letterboxd and X at Deep Cut Pod. You can click the link in our description or go to deepcutpod.com to find links to everything we've mentioned here.
Oh, yeah. Wait, Ben, you've made a list on Letterboxd ranking the TIFF films that you saw, right? So we'll also link that in.
I should have done that for New York Film Festival.
You can still do it.
We can.
It's too late.
No, it's not. Just make it. Just make it for fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, Deep Cut is hosted and produced by us, Wilson Lai, Benjamin Yap, and Eli Sands. Our cover art is designed by Justina Yam, and our theme song is composed by Eli Sands.
I'm Wilson.
I'm Ben.
Eli Des?
Yes.
Right?
That's correct.
Yes.
It is actually
Good.
correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
Take care. We're looking forward to talking about more movies with you next time.
That was a good hang time between the you and the next time. That was really good.
I was thinking of doing it in Japanese and I kind of lost it. That's what the hang time was.
What are we saying? Mata ne. What are we?
Mata ne.
Mata ne.
Hablamos sobre más Hablamos sobre más Tongue twister. Hablamos sobre más películas contigo la próxima vez.
Wow.
Wow. Is that a direct translation? That's beautiful.
Roughly.
How do I say this in Japanese? Let me very quickly translate this. お気をつけて、また映画についてお話できるのを楽しみにしています。
はい。